We got Swidz versus Orange coming up first here as we're kicking off Sunday on our Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. Asia Pacific took place earlier. If you're looking to catch that, starts at about 2 a.m. Pacific time, which is 11 a.m. Central European time. But Swidz versus Orange, still a pretty big match for the two of these as they're looking to turn their records into the positives over the next couple of weeks here. And that's exactly what it takes for each of them if they want to do that. They have to win this match and then also follow up in the coming matches they have.
Yeah, this definitely feels like the turning point for Swidz here, where he's shaking up his strategy. After taking a much more Swidz style of deck in the first couple of weeks with Bomb Warrior, he's switching over to this Tempo Rogue, even ignoring the Burgle package with Vendetta that a lot of players have been going for, in favor of a much more stripped down, lean, aggressive version. Still got the Spirit of the Sharks, as opposed to the Raiding Party package that we're seeing a lot more popping back into the lineups. But I still think that it was looking very strong indeed against Casey yesterday.
I believe it was 13 minutes of gameplay
in two games.
Yeah, that Swidz had yesterday. Total. That counts Casey as well. Now, granted, Casey plays pretty quick, but that's pretty quick.
Oh yeah, about 10 seconds of those 13 minutes were Casey's turns.
Yeah, there wasn't really much Casey could do in that particular set. Sometimes it's going to draw that way. Think about his first match versus Orange. He pretty much just beat Orange up, and there was nothing Orange could really do about it. But that's part of good decks. They get very good draws at times. And taking a look at Orange's deck, this is certainly one of those decks that can get very good draws at times.
Yeah, this is an interesting switch over from Orange after... What was it? In the first week, he was one of the lone beast hunters, kind of ahead of the curve. But now switching over to the, I suppose, a little bit old-fashioned at this point, even Bomb Warrior, I think he's gone with a pretty good deck list for this week. I know that we have some differing opinions on how Warrior lines up against Rogue, but I think at the very least, the point of him bringing this Warrior is he thinks it stands a very good shot against Rogue at the very least.
That still seems to be a pretty hot topic as well. I'm of the opinion that Rogue is actually favored in the matchup.
Right.
I think that Warrior really lacks the armor gain potential to get the job done. Yeah. And I think when you're stacking up bomb damage versus Leroy and Waggle pick damage, it does not line up the way that people think it does.
Well, this is kind of a point of contention between us where I was just losing game after game with Rogue against Warrior over the last day or two, and then you come along and tell me how to play, and I just win. And I think I'm trying to convince myself I would have won anyway, but I know I just suck, and you know how to play the matchup.
See, I disagree with you there. I'm gonna recant the tale from my eyes. Darok plays very passionately when he plays Hearthstone. And oftentimes, regardless of how badly Darok is smashing somebody when he's playing ladder, he feels like he's losing anyway. I don't know why. Sometimes I look at his hand and he's got about 65 million damage, and he's going, I don't know how I'm going to win this game. They're still at 20. And I'm like, probably by spending your mana, you have about 75 million damage in hand. So Darok is playing, and he wants to add more to the board against a Warrior. And I go, well,
I didn't want to. I was saying I felt I might need to.
And I probably think that's a product of some of the memorable losses that you're taking. Not necessarily, it's hard to remember the wins. You usually just blow your opponent out. That's Rogue in a nutshell a lot of times. But your losses, they drag on. They take a long time. You sit there and you lose because it's a Warrior. It takes them a long time to actually defeat you. You have lost the game prior to that a lot of times. When you're playing a game on ladder, it's very easy, I think, to just go to the next game. And I think that's part of the reason why I have found myself with many repetitions against Rogues as the Warrior player. When I know I have lost, I simply go to the next game. Warrior can drag it out for a long time, even when, in theory, they have lost the game. The major theory versus Warrior is threat allocation. How many threats do you need in order to pressure them? You don't want to overcommit. You don't want to undercommit. And so what I tend to do is I get one threat online. And if they don't check it, each turn I try to add one single additional threat.
I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm too prideful. It's just making me annoyed again. I'm like, why didn't I do that? I knew that.
You did know that. And all I did was remind you.
What now?
You played the game yourself.
No, I played myself, is what I did.
Hey. Darok Brown's a good card.
It would not be. It wouldn't say can't attack. It would just say won't attack. It could. It just chooses not to. But either way, a somewhat slow opening for both of these players. The obvious only real big decision so far outside of the Mulligans was Swidz going for the cable round 2 over the dagger, which I find somewhat interesting when he has a Spirit of the Shark in hand.
I think I like it. What I'm looking at again is just how do you defeat a Warrior? Get some damage online and make them do something. Orange, I think this is one of the makings of a hand where Orange could be in that massively favored position rather than the position where you do slowly get grinded out. I mean, I think that weapons in particular are actually quite effective versus a rogue that has a nominal opening. You know, if Swidz has an Edwin opening here, Orange is in really bad shape.
Yes,
but since he's just got the curve out opening, I feel like the weapons here are going to generate a lot of time for Orange. And at the same time, you're looking at not only just the weapons, but it specifically being Wrench Caliber, that over time adds damage into Swidz's deck.
Yeah, it's interesting how weapons go against Rogue, because obviously by tanking the hits with your face, you are going to be taking quite a lot of damage. That's just how it works a lot of the time. And it depends on the kind of Rogue you're against as to how bad that is. Up against Swidz's version of Rogue, taking damage is pretty scary, actually. He's got 2 Waggle picks, the Leroy's Eviscerates. It's kind of the full burn package.
Yeah, and so to me, it looks a little bit weird to see Orange use a Shield Slam in that position, but I think the 2 major things he's thinking about are, number 1, how often am I going to be able to Shield Slam? Pretty rarely, Swidz is going to be pressuring.
Yeah.
Number 2, are the Wrench Calibers better serviced as effective long-term damage while chipping away the annoying minions that I don't want to have to expend Warpath or Brawl on?
And I think number 3, the coin was really, really good there for Orange. He did not want to use it to go coin into 4 when his follow-up was, I guess, Militia Commander, if they develop. It was looking a little bit awkward.
Ooh. Not strong lackeys here from Swidz so far, and with Prep, Shadow Step, and the Waggle pick being checked for value on Orange's side.
I mean, he can just go again, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be said, this worked out gorgeously for Swidz, given that he played the Evil Cable out on 2, got in the damage, and still had it bounced back to his hand.
Ah, very nice.
And that's a lot of damage now.
Yeah, and so that's really the game plan now to look at for Swidz, is the fact that he's rolling into a spot where not only does he get to now tempo the Harrison Jones in a spot where he expects to be able to deliver damage, but he's got 2 Kobold Lackeys backed up with a Shark, and that's 8 additional damage from hand.
Dude, imagine if Swidz had Backstab there. Backstab with the
Yeah, no, it would have been nuts.
+2 spell damage.
Backstab is not a card I'm willing to keep versus Warrior, though.
I completely agree with you there.
So I am kind of curious now, because Orange has been very careful with life total, when he actually uses the Wrench Calibers, because I think that the later he can use them, kind of technically the better it becomes, but my goodness, it's so good at leveraging board early on. So next turn, I mean, just having the check to a Spear of the Shark already loaded, I think that's worth the help.
I think this is way better. Just the fact that he can remove 2 things next turn with Militia Commander and Wrench Caliber. Like, if he doesn't tank the damage by playing Wrench Caliber, he's going to take damage anyway by leaving more minions alive. He has to take it now instead.
Wow, pretty nice pickups here for Swidz.
These are insane. This
And
is so much damage.
And so thinking about it in principal effect, Swidz, for all intents and purposes, he has 1 threat on the board, but it's not a threat of damage, it's a threat of value. So he doesn't really have a way to add multiple threats to the board this turn. This is a turn I would like to add to. You probably just snag the value you can with as much mana efficiency as you can. And to me, that means the Goblin Lackeys, because that's the hardest damage to secure in the deck.
Interesting. I guess, yeah, while you have something in board that does make sense. But then the problem is next turn, if your board is cleared by, say, a Warpath, he can't go Spirit of the Shark and Life Drinker on the same turn. So I think maybe by going for Life Drinker on this turn, and then next turn we can see Spirit of the Shark and Lackey development as well.
Yeah. So
which is why I prefer this line of play.
2 of the factors I look at are the burst damage and what it means for Orange. I think the burst damage here is very important. And then number 2 was my sole thought was the min-max of the dagger. But I like your point a lot of just the mana efficiency of it. I think mana efficiency is pretty paramount for Swidz here.
Yeah, because 4 mana in one card is obviously much more difficult to use than 4 mana in 4 1-cost cards.
Yeah, and you're going to be able to secure a stealth minion, so Goblin Lackeys get the payoff anyway.
That is a very good point as well. In conclusion, nice job, Swidz. Orange here definitely, I think, looking to be taking less damage on his face and damaging his Militia Commander. I definitely think that's correct. His preserving his health total is his biggest concern at the moment.
Warrior just really does not have a lot of ways to gain health.
Ooh, that is not what Orange wanted to see.
No, indeed.
Bombs drawn from the deck mean less Boombots from Blastmaster Boom when it's played.
I think it's likely this turn is something Orange is not going to see either. Swidz has got a very interesting spot where, honestly, now committing a Spear to the Shark in this spot feels, to me, very dangerous. You need the double activation of these battle cries.
Yeah, so you just play them now, right? Like,
well, you can only get 3 of them.
Well, that's fine. That's still good, because there's a good chance that the Spirit of the Shark lives until the next turn. It's not guaranteed, obviously, with Warpath, Dynamatic, and Brawl in the deck.
You did definitely see Orange pass on a pretty ideal Warpath turn.
So many options.
Yeah. It was a very good Warpath turn. I agree. Wow, looks like he's not going for it.
Yeah, I'm curious how much perspective Swidz gets from being a Warrior player himself. Like, how deeply can he read into these scenarios that Orange is playing through?
Going into a Dr. Boom turn, he wants to put as much stats on the board as he possibly can. So I can understand this line of play.
Wow, this is
because it
really weak to Dynomatic.
The most amount of damage on board possible. He's just making the read that it's not there, though.
I think that's fairly accurate, given that Orange probably would have used the weapon swing on the Shark and the Dynomatic last turn.
Yeah. A read from Swidz, like you said, using his impressive knowledge of Warrior to use its strengths against it, finding those weaknesses because he knows what the Warrior wants to do each turn.
Like, the ideal turn from Orange last turn, I believe, was actually attack Spirit of the Shark and Dynomatic. I think that was the ideal play his deck could have produced.
Because it was a 3 health and 2 1/1s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking 0 damage from your weapon swing, you'd have a 3/4 in play. Like, you just can't get much better than that.
Great recognition from Swidz. He doesn't need to be afraid of that. And now, Orange is just dead.
Looking at
4, 8, 12.
I'm looking at 12 from hand.
He's just dead.
Yeah.
Oh wait, board space? Whoa! He messed up! There's no board space!
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh my god, there's actually a game here. Because Orange gets the 7 armor next turn from Blast Shield. Swidz knows he messed up. He snap played that Shark.
I wonder.
Yeah, I think it's draw 2 cards time. Oh
this is so uncharacteristic.
I agree with the launch in here as well. I think the mana efficiency should still be the prime focus.
Oh, I thought that was Warpath for a second.
There's 1 bomb in Swidz
One
deck.
bomb in the deck, so we could go Blastmaster Boom, sacrifice off a couple of Boom bots.
You missed the 7 armor.
Nah, it doesn't work.
I mean,
I think Swidz is getting away with it.
The bigger story to me here is that Orange couldn't secure the last position. It's very unlikely he secures this one. Like, this is not a missed lethal from Swidz. He did not have a lethal presented due to board space.
Yeah.
So the Spirit of the Shark, I agree, is wasted in this spot a lot of times.
I agree.
If Orange gets a perfect top deck here.
Oh, if he got Warpath, he's arguably ahead, I would say, in this situation.
I agree. Sort of the nature of it in my head is when a player has enough damage to deliver lethal, but they don't have a situation where that occurs, whether they miss it or whether they can't execute it immediately, they're usually winning the game.
Yeah.
But this was not a miss lethal. There was no board space.
And Orange is leaving he's leaving all minions alive in order to stop Swidz being able to go for lethal. He's playing to the out of Brawl or Warpath off the top, or just Blastmaster Boom next turn. Or the hero power!
Wow, and Swidz can't do anything except for attack.
Oh my god, the hero power clears off everything.
So Swidz has 12 damage in this spot. He gets to follow up with 2 Kobold Lackeys and another swing. That's 18 damage over 2 turns. Orange is at 19. So the Lackey from Evil Miscreant are what's going to have to produce lethal here. Orange draws, say, shield block.
He could also just go Togwaggle with a prep as well.
See Orange's face, he's like, oh, wow.
Orange...
It's worked.
Orange never has lethal here, I don't think. Unless he gets, like, perfect Boombot RNG face and then perfect bomb draws, which is pretty much impossible to happen.
It would be 15 into deck from Wrench Caliber. To me, this play is pretty straightforward. It's going to be a Kaboom, attack the Shark, and Blastmaster Boom. Whoa.
I think he just knows that he's dead. He has to find a Ziliax.
Vicious Scrap
Or a
Hound.
Vicious Scrap Hound.
2 extra armor.
I mean, it Keeps him alive.
So he wants to play the Elec in that case?
Well, he... Oh, no, he can't go Blastmaster and Scrap Hound now. Guess so.
Well, you're using the Kaboom. Let's get that straight.
Well, I was thinking like maybe he might have wanted to go in for Blastmaster and sacrifice in all his bombs, but yeah. Swidz' reaction, hands to the head. He doesn't have lethal.
If he'd have kept that Spear to the Shark, this game could have been very different. But there's still outs here for Swidz. He has Lackey, he has High Spear and Togwaggle. He can generate 3 more Lackeys. He's got Prep on the Togwaggle.
He's got so much value.
I mean, this is pretty darn close to Swidz wrapping it up because of the Togwaggle and draw. It is so hard for him to not draw damage.
Togwaggle, Prep, Wondrous Wand, costs 1 mana. And obviously all the spells or minions he get would cost 0 anyway.
Look at Orange's reaction to it. Oh. Proper reaction. Shadow Step, Ziliax, Backstab is not any damage.
We can...
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And Orange got the Blast Shield again.
6?
He got Shadow Step and Backstab. That's like the worst cards he could get. This is still not over.
I mean, Orange has a very high potential to recover.
Yes!
On this slip-up right here.
He's still pretty far behind. That's more damage, though.
No attacks from Swidz.
Ooh.
Warpath drawn. Okay.
He can go 4 Warpaths, trade in their Elec, Hero Power.
So is there something better?
Let's have a look. Blastmaster Boom. Maybe Blastmaster Boom Hero Power is just better.
I believe there might not...
Because it's obviously all rushing Boombots.
One of the problems that I see with it is that you do miss a Boombot. This is just the best, though.
It's just more powerful, right? Like it's so absurdly strong.
It is a very nominal risk to not kill the High Spear and Togwaggle here. In fact, it actually might be 0 risk.
Well, it's just damage he's afraid of, right?
Okay, then.
So in this instance...
It's not the battle cry, it's the 5/5 body.
Right, and so you look at the rush, 3 of them have to go into the Ziliax. I'm just saying, like, if all the Boombots go face or they hit Lackeys or something miserable happens...
Something could go wrong.
Right, but I think this is still the strongest play he can make,
agree.
and he has to do this as a recovery
He needs
spot.
to take risks.
And Swidz clearly nervous about it, so High Sparrow's bite the dust. No question asked.
He can pretty much guarantee the clear, I think, right? It would have to get
This
so
Boombot's going to determine some of it, and there you go.
100% clear.
Wow. So now Swidz, having used the Shark, this could very easily come back to bite him now.
He's still got value, though. This is still not over, either way.
10 more damage to go. He's got 2 loaded up already. He's got 4 from hand.
That's no more damage. He can make a big Edwin. But there's a 7/7 in play.
I'm getting back the evil miscreant here.
Yes.
You got to get the damage.
Is
Do you even
bouncing...
get the damage? You have to discover Spell Lackey, Kobold Lackey?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if bouncing the Kobold Lackey is your best way. Like, what lethal outs is he looking for? He kind of wants to save the step for Leroy as well off the top anyway.
You could also first the Faceless Lackey, see if you get some damage. Rush, not
I thought it was Bluegill for a second. I thought it was Bluegill.
You saw the border.
I saw the green border and I was like, oh! Yep, Big Edwin is the way forward. Now draw a spell.
Yeah, every time you play a World Cup, you need to draw a spell! He draws a bomb!
What? No way! That gets him a card though. That gets him a random card from his deck. And Orange has the board clear. With Trade and Warpath.
Whoa! Huge draw for Orange!
What is happening?
He's winning! That's what's happening. I think this is where Orange turns the corner.
Okay, then.
Look at Swidz, man. Like, this is the kind of play that you have nightmares about. You make one mistake, one slip-up, and the game is lost because of it.
Yeah.
Playing that Spirit of the Shark very possibly just loses him this game. If he hits Leroy off the top, he's still winning, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Myra's can get him back in the game.
there's
Okay,
Even just
then.
Waggle Pick.
there's a bomb left in the deck.
Okay, yeah, one more, I think.
There's 2 more bombs because he drew 1 and the Blastmaster Boom made 5 boom bots because of board space.
Okay.
So there was at least 3 at that point, and he's drawn 1. So
Okay.
there's at least 2 more in the deck, which means that 1 in 8 of his draws produces a Leroy right now.
Orange can get himself another Blast Shield hero power, though. He's looking in a great spot.
Leroy!
Oh!
Swidz gets out of it! My gosh! This is our first game, Derek.
I don't even know what to say. To be honest, Swidz
I think the smile there from Swidz says a lot.
he
Like,
should be counting his lucky stars, because that was a game that he very nearly just completely threw. And I don't use that word lightly.
it's a very small, subtle-looking detail, but I 100% agree with you. Swidz was as close to throwing that game as possible. Like that's the punt recovery
Right.
immediately right there, where he still has time because there's no pressure on the other side. Because Orange is in Dr. Boom mode, he gets the value of being able to battle for board, but he loses 2 armor a turn, which definitely costs you something. Now, granted, he fetched 2 blast shields
He did.
during that time as well. So the fact that he's not under any pressure whatsoever buys Swidz the time to get to that point.
Yep.
But that Spirit of the Shark play nearly completely cost him game 1.
It very nearly did. But, I mean, to Swidz' credit, I don't want to, you know, dunk on him too hard, I suppose could be the expression. He recovered pretty well. A lot of players, when they make a mistake like that, they freak out, they get nervous because they're thinking, I messed up on stream, so many people were watching me just make a terrible mistake in that situation. He played to his outs, he was still keeping the damage rolling, playing for value, playing for the Tog Waggle to draw lethal there. And, you know, it wasn't that unlikely for the Leroy to come there at the end. It had to come at some point.
Look, it's a slip-up that he can't really afford to make.
Oh, absolutely
But
not.
if you look at the rest of what he did in that game, strong hand reading, understanding what the strongest players for
True.
Orange were, and then capitalizing on the fact that he knew they weren't there, you got to look at the good side too if you're going to look at the bad.
He's just got to slow down, and he'll be absolutely fine.
Just missed that one spot. Board space, very rarely a relevant factor, but in that game, one of paramount importance. Swidz up a game over Orange. We got to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to find out if Orange can tie things up.
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
Hey guys, my name is Tyler. So I used to work in fashion. I used to run a website called OOTD Magazine, so Outfit of the Day Magazine. And my username on all social media platforms was just Tyler OOTD. And naturally, I just took the name Tyler OOTD as well in Hearthstone. It just kind of stuck. Being in Grandmaster, it means a lot to me. I've known that I was one of the best players in the world, but I really never had a way to define myself as what am I doing with Hearthstone, who am I? And right now, when people ask me that question, I can simply tell them I'm a Hearthstone Grandmaster. My personal goals for this year, I definitely want to create more content. I want to help people get better at the game. My other goal is to win the Grandmaster League. I feel like the Grandmaster League and the Specialist format are perfect for me. I've always been known for grinding that one deck hundreds and hundreds of thousands of games and getting really good at it and understanding the deck better than anyone else. And I feel like I will be able to show those strong points with Specialist. I'm a very free spirit. I really enjoy the feeling of anything can happen in this life, in this world, and that type of adventure, that's how I like to live life.
Just got a word from Tyler there, who handed Shaxi his first match loss in the Asia Pacific Grandmasters region. Shaxi now sits at 5-1. Tyler up to a 4-2 record, but despite having a 4-2 match record, is not in the top 3 in his division. It is a pretty stacked placement that's over there. You can catch Tyler at 2 a.m. Pacific time or at 11 a.m. Central European time if you want to watch Asia Pacific Grandmasters. But we're here now in our first match, Swidz versus Orange, and Swidz up a game.
Yes, after a very, well, winning by the skin of his teeth, I suppose would be the expression to describe that one, after very nearly losing the game based on a instant Spirit of the Shark playing, thinking he had lethal, but only 7 board spaces when he needed 8 to win the game. However, we are now switching over into our second game of the series, which means we can see secondary and tertiary decks coming into play. As we can see here for Swidz, the pretty obvious anti-warrior build. However, it's quite an interesting build of anti-warrior.
I am skeptical.
Double Togwaggle scheme.
I'm very skeptical.
So this is a style of play we saw from, I believe, Bloody Face in the Americas region, where his tech for anti-warrior was to put in 2 novice engineers, I think 2 sprints as well, and 1 Togwaggle scheme. Basically to say 1 is enough, and I'll draw through my whole deck, and then shuffle in extra copies of Leroy or Togwaggle or whatever powerful card he needs. Swidz, however, is saying he wants 2 copies of Togwaggle scheme. I think that's a bit much.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not skeptical of the matchup. I think the matchup is Swidz favored.
I think at this point, yeah, he's looking pretty good.
I think in game 1 he's favored. And this is a pretty hotly debated topic right now of who's favored, Warrior or Rogue. I firmly believe it's Rogue. And the reason why is the lack of Warrior's ability to sustain their life total. Rogue just has a ton of damage, like heaps of damage.
It does, and I think there's a very good chance that I'm still living in the past where the Rogue, when I played the most amount of Rogue, it was pre-nerf to Raiding Party, at which point every warrior, every single one, was playing 2 weapons project. It was core in the deck at that point, and that made it significantly more difficult to win that matchup, I think. However, now with most warriors playing none, Orange only playing 1 in his decks, I think, as we saw in that game, can become a lot easier to get the damage through to face.
Orange stuck on the primary deck, which is his deck that services best against Rogue.
Yep.
His other 2 decks are focused on defeating Mage and the mirror match for Bomb Warrior mirrors.
Quite clearly.
For Swidz here, the fact that he's added in 2 Togwaggle schemes, I guess one of the interesting things about it is when you Togwaggle scheme, what that would mean is when and if you have to go for a Myra's turn, perhaps you can actually mitigate bomb damage at that point, whether pre or post Myra's Unstable Element. As you draw the rest of your deck, you get to add things to your deck that decrease the chance that you draw bombs and lose the game. Because honestly, I think that's the way that Warrior wins, is chip damage into pressuring your opponent's resources where they have to draw aggressively to end.
Yeah, it changes quite drastically against this version because, like, I think in that last game, it was looking much more like Orange was just hoping to run Swidz out of resources, in the early game at least, because he could just stabilize, get bored. He wouldn't even need to be aggressive because Swidz just wouldn't get any attacks through to face for the rest of the game. With this deck, as you said, with a double Togwaggle scheme, an extra Hench Clan Burglar in there, and a Cairn Bloodhoof, running him out of resources is going to be mighty tricky.
I wonder.
I think all Swidz needs to do here is just make sure he's not losing board. Like, he doesn't need to be too greedy with the amount of value in his deck.
His hand is heavy.
It's really heavy, which is why I think he needs to just throw cards out onto the board. Don't be too conservative with them.
The Waggle pick, I think, was a necessity last turn, but you're kind of seeing the downside of playing the Shark package with Waggle's pick is that oftentimes you have a conflicting interest in what you're doing.
Yep.
You know, here, Orange gets a wonderful payoff of taking advantage of the fact that Swidz needs to hand dump. He has board now. He's getting damage in. Like, Wrench Caliber is one of my favorite cards for actually pressuring opponents with control, because over the course of the game, if both your Wrench Calibers get to go face, you look at the end result of that, that is 4 mana, 16 damage if those bombs show up.
I think this turn for Orange was maybe not quite as good as it appeared. Like, killing off a Spirit of the Shark is obviously important, but for Swidz, you know, the Dynamatic was used to kill off one of his 4 mana cards. It's obviously not ideal. You'd much rather the Spirit of the Shark stick around, but it was not that bad.
Let's agree to disagree on that. I think that was fantastic for Orange, and I think he has a massive lead.
I agree he's in a very good spot here. I just think that Spirit of the Shark is so strong that the fact that Orange is happy to kill it off with a Dynamatic speaks to more to how good Spirit of the Shark is than to how good that turn was for Orange, if I'm making any sort of sense whatsoever.
This turn is a bit annoying for Orange. I think, honestly,
Just plays the Devastator, right? Like,
these are, to me, the kinds of spots where Warrior struggles the most, is like against minions that they're going to hurt, but they don't feel valuable enough to kill.
maybe you do go for the Militia Commander instead, actually. Yeah, you probably want to kill that off.
It's like, look, what of these do you want to use cards on? It's a 1/4, a 2/1, and a 1/1.
Well, like, in the next few turns, I guess you want to save the Devastator for when it has Rush, actually, even more so than just for the 10 damage it deals. So, Militia Commander this turn, Dr. Boom next turn.
It just looks... I'm annoyed by the minions. Like, I'm putting myself in a Warrior shoes where I go, I don't want to swing at any of these. Like, the minions are so inferior to what minions normally are that I don't want to kill them, and thus they result in more damage if I don't kill them. It's inferior minion theory. The minions are so bad that I don't want to kill them, and thus they deal more damage.
Weren't you talking to me about that the other day, about how you've in the history tried deliberately putting bad cards in your deck so people don't kill them?
I've played a lot of cards and done a lot of dumb stuff. And once upon a time, my friend and I, his name's Kia, he's like a brother to me. We were playing cards, and we were playing online in a tournament, and I just looked at it and I went, you know what? Good players don't kill bad creatures. They just don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play bad creatures and see what happens. Long story short, I was getting board-wide buffs for a lot of games because they didn't want to use their premium removal spells on my bad cards.
So long story short, prepare for the Goldshire Footman Warrior meta, basically, everyone. It's coming. It will be the scourge of ladder.
The first time you have to shield slam a Dalaran Mage, you are going to feel weird.
Remember that was 2 mana?
It used to be like a 2/4 as well.
Oh, was it a 3 mana 2/4?
It was a 3 mana 2/4 at one point, I know that. That was a long...
Oh yeah, it wasn't 2 mana, it was a 3 mana 2/4.
It's like alpha stage.
Yeah. They nerfed it ages ago.
Yeah, that's right. I said it. Dalaran Mage was an alpha.
Can you even imagine how little play Dalaran Mage would see, even if it was a 2/4 now? You'd never play it.
I think it's pretty good. I don't think it'd be played right now.
Yeah,
You know, Cyclone Mage.
True.
You know, it would be played, and is an alpha. Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Oh yeah. Look at that dude.
So
The hand is still just very clunky for Swidz. This is my fear, is that it's going to take him too long to see the fruition of this plan.
Well, yeah, like if Dr. Boom hadn't come down, I think he would be very happy to take it slow. Now that it has, he needs to go a bit quicker. He needs to get stuff on board, get his big minions down before turn 10, before the Devastator can come in.
I actually really like the timing of Harrison here as well, where it's at that point...
You mean Edwin?
I'm sorry, yeah, Edwin. What did I say?
Harrison.
Why did I say Harrison? The timing here of
names.
Edwin is, I think, quite good because this helps. Like, Swidz has a ton of value in hand. He's not worried about the board getting tempoed right now.
Yes.
What he's worried about is not knowing what Orange is going to do and then how to follow up as a response. You know, clearly he's going to play High Spare and Togwaggle as his response. But how Orange reacts this turn, I think, gives Swidz a lot of information about what's in Orange's hand. This is a spot that looks pretty primed to brawl. And I think
Swidz would be pretty happy to bait out a brawl here.
Yes, and I think if he doesn't see brawl, he can rest assured it's not there right now.
Kind of a win-win scenario for Swidz.
Yeah. Big benefit of just having an Edwin. Your hand is good, your board gets good. They gotta have good stuff.
Yeah. This is what I mean of what I wanted to see from Swidz as well, where he is just playing out his cards. His hand is stacked with value at the moment, especially after he gets the Wondrous Wand from High Sparrow and Togwaggle. So I like just chucking out cards onto the board.
Just scheme out the Togwaggle.
Oh,
draw some cards.
Yeah. That's insane. If you hit High Sparrow and Togwaggle off of your Wondrous Wand, you are looking to be in a fantastic spot.
Yeah, this used to be doable on 8 mana. You would play a Lackey, you would play High Spare and Togwaggle, you would scheme it, and then prep the Wondrous Wand.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore.
That's interesting that Orange didn't magnetize the Ziliax onto one of the 1/1 microbots there. So it would have just been better for him in that scenario.
So this tells me that Swidz is interested in scheming.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because he gets 8 High Spare and Togwaggles in play. He doesn't need the pop-off with the wand because he already has board presence.
Yep.
And that play right there is a nightmare for Orange. He has to deal with this board or things are going to go awry. So now I'm less skeptical of the game plan. I see exactly what it is. Swidz, instead of trying to pressure very aggressively, will simply fight for board. He adds a Cairn in there for resiliency.
Yeah. I think this is exactly right. Like I said, he does need to play onto the board aggressively, which he has done, but he doesn't need to go all in, I think is the difference.
It's not a damage race.
Exactly.
It's a containment.
Yes.
Ah.
Making sure that Orange can't do anything.
Yeah, there's no way that Warrior's ever favored in this matchup unless you have teched specifically for this in game number 1. I think if you have Weapons Project and Ooze, you're probably favored. You get to blow up a lot of their weapons.
Yes, I agree.
And get some board presence.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when I'm on Warrior and my opponent backstabs one of my minions, ooh, it feels good.
Maybe this deck from Swidz is just the way to go. It's looking better and better the more I see it. Like, it's not running out of value all too much, although I suppose in the first game it was getting close to that. But that was mostly due to a blunder, more so than the actual way the deck is constructed.
It does feel a little bit slow in aggressive matchups. I'm thinking specifically, like, over in America's region, we're seeing a lot of aggressive decks.
Yeah.
Muzzy, one of the America's region's Grandmasters, he's running Deadly Poisons and South Sea Deckhands. We're seeing Prep Raiding Party start to become, a functional deck in this metagame again.
I believe we saw Ostkaka as well, previous Hearthstone World Champion, running the Raiding Party build of Rogue recently.
That's right.
As well.
He tweeted out, he said, imagine not running Prep Raiding Party.
Just imagine.
And he won the qualifier. Surprise!
Of course he did.
Previous world champion won a qualifier.
And
decent bomb timings here for Orange, where the third card drawn from Wondrous Wand does not discount.
yeah, yes.
Effective third card, rather.
Right, and so this is a good time to bring up...
Oh!
What?
Not a good
What?
bomb timing. It doesn't matter what happens after that.
He has a 50% chance to just hit the Wondrous Wand.
I mean, this game is going to end.
Oh, but he can play another Togwaggle to have a 66% chance to play one of the good spells.
The 66.66 repeating, of course.
Of course.
Percent chance to hit that spell.
If he goes for Zarog's Crown, he runs out of board space, though. But if he goes for Wondrous Wand, he runs out of hand space.
This looks like he's
Oh my
playing
God.
like this looks like seriously he's playing the Dalaran Heist right now.
This is so powerful, what Swidz is doing. This is some Infinity Gauntlet level stuff.
He's just loading up legendaries. He's
Of
just gonna
course.
beat up Orange.
I mean, he has a 50% chance to just cast another Wondrous Wand here.
Look at Swidz's face.
Oh, dude.
I can't believe he's done this.
Oh, he hits the triple Togwaggle. My body has lost all function at this point.
This is where
I'm just freaking out.
This draw right here is where Valera starts spitting a bunch of coins out. Ding, ding, ding. I guess that's what happens when there's, 8 extra high spare and Togwaggles in your deck.
Yeah. I think Orange's reaction here is pretty much exactly right. As you can see there, Archmage
Yeah.
Vargoth casts another time a spell that you've played this turn.
Orange is extremely dead this game. His actual lone out
There's nothing.
is bomb damage.
Okay, okay.
So he does get to continue here. And oftentimes this is what Bomb Warrior does. It goes, I'm in a bad position. I'm going to defend as long as I can and hope that you don't draw the right cards. Or rather, kind of hope that you do draw the right cards, depending on whose perspective you're looking at.
3 High Spare and Togwaggles for a grand total of no mana. Niente. Zilch. That's free.
How many languages do you know?
None.
Zilch, that's German, right?
Let's ask Bunny Hop. He probably does actually speak all the languages I was just saying one word of.
Well, he is German. Oh,
I cannot believe that Swidz has done this.
yeah, this is like it's now just taunting Orange as well because he's had this dumb Elysion in his hand the whole game.
Nice Archivist, nerd.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just cost 9 mana? My pair cost 3. By the way, didn't have to replace my deck of only High Spare and Togwaggles. That cost free. In my head,
He's just playing those 5/5s now.
in my head, it's actually unimaginable that Swidz can play this turn perfectly, but it's also unimaginable that anything he does can lose the game.
He can do literally whatever he wants.
As long as he just attacks and plays cards.
Brawl here, I guess, buys Orange a turn.
Okay,
How many bombs are in the deck?
there's a chance.
Is there a bomb in the deck? Yeah, Security Rover, I guess, is... Yeah, he's shaking his head. This is...
So Orange, I think, when he makes this play, you know, he's probably going to lose. I mean, it's like astronomical, the odds that he wins.
Yeah.
But I think when he makes this play, he actually does give up a couple percentage points.
You think he should have gone Goblin Blastmaster Boom?
I mean, how is he going to win this game unless all the boom bots just hit face?
He only has like 1 bomb in the deck, or even none, I think, at this point.
Was it none at that point?
I think it could have been because he drew 2 off the 1.
Ah, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So never mind, excuse me then.
But Swidz there, with the fist bump. His luck is most assuredly turning around here, because I think, you know, it's got to be said, even though Swidz looked like he got pretty bloomin' fortunate in that game with the way his High Sparrow and Togwaggle worked out, it's all...
That's how he built the deck.
Exactly, that's how he built the deck, and also he got really unlucky in the first couple of weeks. He was due an upswing in terms of how his games were going, and, you know, aside from that one obvious mistake where he messed up a lethal setup, or he thought he had lethal in game 1 but didn't, it was just, you know, just playing some good rogue, I think. He's showing good proficiency with the deck.
Definitely it's that he thought he had lethal, and he did not due to board space.
Yes.
Which ended up being a botched play because he needed to Spear the Shark later.
Yes.
However, I'm going to turn the point away from luck because that's the factor that you cannot control.
Right.
And you do have factors that you can control, which is A, your own predictability, and then B, what's going to be strong against the field. Swidz has done a total swap up from A, his enormous strength as a control player, and then B, from his miserable start in Grandmasters. 0-4 in matches, largely because he was playing Warrior. People knew he was going to play Warrior and prepared for it. He completely swapped that, and he saw a major payoff here. 2 match wins this week.
And 4-0 game score as well, I believe, destroying Casey in both of the matches he played. There are only 13 minutes of game time in that whole series, as you pointed out. And it's not even like he's just net decked another rogue player. His is quite a unique build of rogue compared to the majority of the other players that we're seeing here this week in Europe Grandmasters. No raiding party, no vendetta package either. It's kind of a hybrid build, which is just working gorgeously for him.
And we do have Swidz for an interview. Swidz, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Congratulations on this week. A big turnaround from your start to Grandmasters. I'm going to ask you first about the matchup. What did you think that your opponents were going to bring this week? And did your perspective as a Warrior player help you understand this match?
I didn't expect someone bring Warrior against me. And so Orange bring Warrior, but his deck list is not that good against Rogue. I mean, he's still favor, but he can grid more the matchup against Rogue. So,
do you think he's favored with the way that you've built your side deck?
I don't think he's favor against my side deck because he run only 1 brawl and no silence against Van Cleef or execution.
So I saw the other day that you tweeted out, I think it was J'ai enfin gagné, if I'm saying that right. I finally won. What's it been like for you with the French community? Yeah, see, GCSE French right there.
Je parle français un petit.
Yes, oui, oui. With the French community behind you, now that you're finally starting to win the games, what has the response from the other French Hearthstone players been for you? Are they all rallying behind you?
Yes, the French community support me. They are all behind me. Support me well when I lose or when I win. So they are super cool with me.
And final question, how confident are you in the following weeks now that you've had such a good performance this week?
I'm always confident because I think I have a good gameplay overall. But yeah, now I'm winning 2 in a row, so why not 4 in a row, 6 in a row?
Well, Swidz,
So I'm confident, yes.
that's the attitude I like to hear, and congratulations on this. I do believe your play has been impressive, and this week in particular, a big turnaround. Congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you play next week.
Thank you.
I like Swidz.
I like him a lot. I think he is a very strong player who is finally getting a record that is more representative of him as a player.
Now, he's still got plenty to go, though. I mean, we're looking at 14 total matches before we get to a playoff stage, so he's got 8 more still left to not only keep up this streak, but to show that he is, in fact, one of the strongest in the world. I have to say that amongst the players that I talk with and the people that I talk with about Hearthstone, Swidz, honestly, has been one of the bigger question marks because the French community is very much a lot of their own community. It's French. It's not English speaking. When you get to that point, it often separates your idea of what you can see from it. But I think that paramountly, above all else, the way that Swidz has performed with crazy-looking deck lists in the Hearthstone Championship Tour and playoffs and such, for me is one of the biggest factors that makes me consider him as one of the strongest in the world.
And yeah, I would say the only reason he's not right up there at the top in terms of the game score is that this is the pinnacle of Hearthstone Esports this year. This is as good as it gets with these players, the absolute best players in the world. I would say specifically in Europe as well. We've been seeing from Psycho and Fino the strongest play out of any of the regions, in my opinion. And he's finally showing that he does very much deserve his spot here with the rest of them, picking up a 4-0 game score this week.
And I'll add the little footnote to that with the Masters Tour coming up this year. I'm hoping we see a lot of that talent that can't compete in Grandmasters just yet make their rise to the top, because there's still a lot of strong competitors that are out there in the field. First match is wrapped up. Swidz 2-0 over Orange and continues Orange's streak of 100% versus world champions and 0% when he's not. Board Control versus Finos coming up next. Quick break, and we're coming back.